Hi there, Dan Scott here. This is some footage from a painting I've been working on. I'm still going on it, but in the meantime, I want to share with you how I painted the highlights on the water and an interesting technique I used involving an old palette knife. Here's the reference photo, and these are the highlights I need to paint. You can see that I've already set the stage and got the surrounding colours roughly in place. I've also loosely mapped out where the highlights will go. The highlights need to appear like they're on the surface of the water and are also somewhat distinct from the other reflections of the trees and sky. It's easier to convey this by painting the highlights last, after everything else is in place. Usually I would paint the highlights with a brush and a delicate touch, but I don't think that would work as well in this case, as I'm painting wet on wet, and it would be hard to make clean strokes of titanium white without the colours mixing on the surface. The technique I go with is to use a palette knife to apply dabs of titanium white on the surface without any side-to-side movement, only down against the surface and up. This allows me to apply thick dabs of pure titanium white without much mixing on the surface. The palette knife strokes also contrast nicely against the brushwork that I used for the surroundings, and it makes the highlights appear just a bit more distinct. I start around the middle where the highlights are concentrated, and then I work outwards without loading more paint onto the knife. By doing this, the first stroke will always be the strongest and cleanest. Each subsequent stroke will have less paint and will also be weaker as the titanium white starts to mix with the colours already on the surface. Whenever I reload the knife with more paint, I start back at the middle and work my way outwards again. This creates a tapering off effect with my strokes, and it will help the highlights fit in with the surroundings. This is quite important. I want the highlights to appear distinct, yet also part of the same landscape. I don't want it to look like I just tacked them on. Also, you can't tell from here, but this is one of my old palette knives. It has dried paint along the face of the knife from times I forgot to clean it. So the strokes aren't clean and sharp like you would expect from a palette knife. They are broken and irregular. But this works in my favour here. I don't want the highlights to be too neat and clean. They need to be a bit broken and irregular, as the water's surface isn't completely flat and light isn't being evenly reflected. So perhaps it's worth hanging on to some of those old and ratty brushes and palette knives, as their imperfections can make them handy in certain scenarios like this. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. I'll publish another video once this painting is complete.